Clemson Hotline is on the air, a one-hour talk show giving Clemson fans a power hour of Tiger sports talk. Clemson Hotline is presented by y'all.com and brought to you by Amtrak. Clemson Hotline is direct from Tiger Country on the network of radio stations across the great state of South Carolina. And as always, a podcast edition of our show is available for download in iTunes. Hello, Tiger fans. Welcome back into another edition of the Clemson Hotline right here on the John C. Calhoun Radio Network, Sunday nights, 9 o'clock. Got a shirt we're giving away. That's right, one of our, what we like to call the beer label version of the Clemson Sports Talk t-shirts. That's the back, the front with our typical logo. You see it if you're watching the program right in the bottom left-hand corner. Giving one of those away to one of you listening to the program. We'll give that away Wednesday night. We'll let you know who wins it. All you have to do is find the tweet that we put out earlier that said to retweet that tweet to people, and that enters you automatically in. If you don't already follow us, do that as well. And we will give that shirt away to some lucky Tiger fan out there. Actually, we'll give it away to anybody out there to be, you know, in the technical sense of the term, giving it away to anyone who retweets it. Maybe I give it away to Nancy O'Dell. Maybe I have to give it away to Alex Trebek. I don't know. Whoever retweets it will get it. Stay with us. We'll give away some stuff. And thank you so much for being here. We're going to talk about the Clemson Tiger baseball team, basketball, and a little bit of football right here on the program.
Here's a surprising summertime fact from new Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. We all know that irritants like bug bites and poison ivy can make you itch. But what you might not know is how. Actually, it's the histamines your body creates in reaction to these irritants that make you miserable. But now that scratch has met its match. New Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. Its maximum strength itch medicine blocks your itch-causing histamines fast for long-lasting relief. New Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. The relief you've been itching for. Use as directed.
A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about services offered by Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC, visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate or reach them by phone 864-517-3620 or 864-517-3621.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Want to hear the sound of hassle-free traveling?
All aboard!
Amtrak takes the hassle out of traveling to over 500 destinations. You can stretch out in a spacious seat, relax in a sleeping car, and enjoy a hot meal in the dining car. And for those who want to kick back and take in the scenery, go right ahead. For everything you get on Amtrak, the one thing you won't get is this. So whether you're going to a family reunion or an away game, make it a whole lot nicer on Amtrak. Book your trip today at Amtrak.com or call 1-800-USA-RAIL.
All aboard!
Are any of these symptoms familiar? Weight gain, hot flashes, rapid heartbeat, night sweats? How about fatigue, nausea, low libido, and fat storage? If you're a woman over 40 experiencing any of these symptoms, you probably have hormonal imbalance. Amberen restores hormonal balance in women over 40, so the extra pounds fall away and the other symptoms simply disappear. To receive a complimentary risk-free trial with a free 30-day supply, just be one of the first callers right now at 1-800-921-9020. That's 1-800-921-9020.
Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. Welcome back into the program. Thank you so much for being here. Let me tell you how you can take part with us, though, real quick. 803-450-0086. That's 803-450-0086. The number is below. Tommy Chastain joins us in the chat room. He notes that Spreecast is level up, I'll say, on where we used to do the program Vocal. And it always makes me wonder, we were number one over at Vocal. I never will forget the guy who had the number 2 rated show on Vocal. He would get, and this was back in basically football season when we could have upwards of 200, 300 people tuning in. It just kind of depended as the live show went. Those numbers obviously dwindle down as we get into this time, but we're looking forward to jumping back up once August rolls around especially. But anyhow, I think back to him talking about there must be a lot of Clemson Tiger fans out there and how funny that was. But would you rather be number one at Vocal right now? And I hate to put those people down because they did a lot for us, but they haven't improved a single thing since we left. They basically went off air forever. I mean, they were down for 3 months. I don't know what the version 2.0 was, but it broke the system, and we're over here at Spreecast now, and we love it. If you want to watch the show live, just go to clemsonsportstalk.com/live, and you can join us each and every Sunday night, Wednesday night. So many great fans here in the chat room, and Clemson blood runneth orange in each and every one of them. I can guarantee you that. But let's talk about this Clemson Tiger baseball team. 22 games above 500. They're 37-15 right now, 17-10 in the Atlantic Coast Conference, sitting right there behind Florida State and NC State. And really, those two teams, they've got to play again. So the opportunity for Clemson as they go down to Tallahassee to take on the Florida State Seminoles this coming weekend. That's set for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 2 of those games are on ESPNU. The Friday game at 8 o'clock and the Saturday game at 3 o'clock, barring any weather events. And with college baseball, especially Clemson baseball, there's one thing you can guarantee. Weather events are bound to make their way into the equation. For whatever reason, this Clemson Tiger team has had to play through numerous doubleheaders this season, including 2 this past weekend. And for the first time since 1996, your Clemson Tigers go 7-0 in 7 days. That's right. They played 2 games Monday against Maryland to complete that series. They won both of those. Then Wednesday over at Furman, because of a rainout in Clemson on Tuesday, they took down the Furman Paladins by a grand total of 26-4. Both games it was 14-2 in game 1, 12-2 in game 2. And the Tigers go 2-0 in that series and 2-0 in doubleheaders this week, and then this weekend a 3-game sweep of Georgia Southern. And Clemson has done basically everything they needed to do to give themselves an opportunity. All they have to do now to complete this transformation, I think that's the best way you can put it. When you look at this team and you realize just where they came from early on in the season, the young pitching staff is finally coming together. This transformation will be complete with the opportunity to perhaps win the Atlantic Division of the ACC down at Florida State. I mean, it'll be tough. Don't make any mistake about it. Nobody waltzes down into Tallahassee and comes away unscathed without putting a lot of work in, and that's exactly what this Clemson Tiger team will have to do this weekend. But on the week, they outscored their opposition 63-18, and I'm so disappointed in the pitching staff. Because if they could have only given up one less run, I could have said 63-17. Take that, Gamecock fans. We don't have a whole lot to brag about the past couple of seasons, past 4 years in football, but we can still talk about that one whenever we want to. Whenever we want to. Hear me as I say it. There's nothing you can change about that. 63-17. Whew, that was a good game, but they didn't. They gave up 18 runs, so 63 runs scored for the Tigers to 18 that they gave up. They totaled 10 doubles, 3 triples, 1 home run, and the fielding for Clemson was great. I believe there was only one error in the series against Georgia Southern, and they fielded at about 97% for the entire week. Shane Kennedy was on fire, going 12 of 24 with a triple, a homer, 6 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 4 walks, and 5 steals. And I'm just so disappointed still when I look at that, those numbers for Clemson, and you realize just what has happened to the game of college baseball. Naturally, Clemson's pitching staff, which is young, has improved and gotten better throughout the season. One thing is the bats for the other teams are no more weapons at the plate than what Clemson has right now. I mean, just the sheer fact that Clemson only has 15 home runs on the entire season and has only given up 20 home runs. It seems like there were games when I was in college that had 15 home runs hit. Mike in the chat room says baseball and gives the old snooze fest. Be careful, Mike. If Tommy Chastain can figure out how to stretch his arm through the computer right now and grab you by your neck, he probably would. He's a baseball lover. The man just flat out loves the game, took his mom out to the game, and happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. I know a lot of you don't listen to the show live, and that's okay. So you'll pick this up and say, what are you talking about? It's Monday. It's Tuesday. Who you wishing happy Mother's Day to? But when we do the show live, Sunday nights at 9, I always try to keep it real for everybody who's here. So absolutely, to my wife, my mother passed away, what will be 20 years ago this year. So it's been 19 straight Mother's Days without an opportunity to give my mom a hug or a kiss. And I can tell you, and there's a lot of people out there that have had a lot worse situations in their lives than me. And there are plenty of people out there that will tell you when you get that opportunity to give your mom that hug, that kiss, don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. Hey, we'll be back. We got a whole lot more to get to about this Clemson Tiger baseball team. Plus, how about the job perhaps that Coach Brad Brownell's done by bringing in a couple of big men? We'll talk about that and more right here on Clemson Hotline.
Holding hands, but she's mad at me 'cause she don't want to go, don't want to go. I'm better at anthropology. Purple boots and a golden dreams. Standing there like a Tennessee queen, singing, don't look at me, don't look at me, singing, oh, oh.
Oh, yeah, straight from the low country, Barnwell County, born and bred. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. We bring you Clemson news, notes, information, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've got your Clemson sports news scattered, smothered, and covered. We are the Waffle House of Clemson sports. Thank you to Mark, Chris, Craig, Clemson Tom, Tommy Chastain, rcsportscards.com. Check them out. They got some unbelievable sports cards there, Clemson stuff. They're not even a sponsor of the program, but they're a loyal listener, and I'm going to tell you what. I went by there. I saw some old school Tiger. They reminded me of what you used to get out of like a Wheaties box back in the day, some of those. And I can't even remember where we got those cards. I had so many of them. I got a stack of Garbage Pail Kids over here. I have no clue what I'm going to do with those. RC, let me know if they're worth anything. I'll let you look through them. I'll take a percentage of the sales. Clemson Swag's with us. We got a couple of guests, and I certainly do appreciate all of you for being here. Give us a call, though, if you want to talk about this Clemson Tiger baseball team. They've won 21 out of the last 25 games. They are 21-4 since April Fool's Day. That was the day that the switch flipped. They beat North Carolina 5-4. And since then, they've been on fire. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. We mentioned they went 7-0 this past week, but when you look back, about a week before that game on April Fool's Day, on the 23rd of March, Scott Firth was rocked by Duke. Absolutely rocked. 8 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 3 1/3 innings pitched by Firth. We had a program that next day or that day, I don't remember which it was, and I was just astounded at how poor. I think I called it atrocious. That's one of my favorite words to go to. When I have to describe something that is absolutely terrible, that's my go-to phrase. And Scott Firth was awful. And the only thing I can figure is that Jack Leggett and Coach Pepicelli took him into the locker room.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
And made him an offer he couldn't refuse. They said, hey, we got to put you at the back end of this staff. At that time, Clemson really didn't have a solid closer yet either. But Firth has come on in that position. It's amazing to see that 1 week later, this Clemson team that was on the brink, I think, of falling apart to some degree, has truly turned it around. They lose 13-1 to Duke. Firth goes to the pen, and now this young pitching staff has taken over. Matthew Crownover, 2 wins this past week in 13 innings pitched. The left-hander is sizzling right now. Just fantastic on the mound for the Clemson Tigers. And as much as we've still not liked some of the things we've seen out of number 7 over on the third baseline, and I'm not talking about Nancy Odell wearing that number 7. She was rocking it at the game. She was rocking it at graduation as well. Nancy Odell was given an honorary degree. I guess she joked we needed to call her Dr. now, Nancy Odell. And congratulations to all the graduates of Clemson University class of 2013. You earned it. My nephew Will, one of those. He'll be heading over to Georgia for law school. I'm hoping his career at Georgia will start off 1-1 in football. A loss to Clemson and a win over Carolina. I believe Nancy is about 42. Clemson Tom in the chat room wants to know how old is Nancy. I want to say she's 42. She graduated well before I did, but it took me 7 years, as you're aware. You could quickly ask your Siri, Clemson Tom. I know you have an iPhone. Siri will tell you that. And if you don't have Siri, try Google Now. Google Now works really good, too. But, yeah, congratulations to my nephew, Will. His great-great-grandfather, John Garnett Lawton I, graduated from Clemson in 1912. So 101 years later, great-great-grandson graduates, too. So pretty cool. And by the way, speaking of graduates, I know the job market out there isn't so great. I mean, it's improved. It has improved. I know there's a lot of people out there that have obviously found a way to get things together. Well, let me tell you this about the Edisto Outdoors Street Team. Do you have a lot of friends? You need to make some extra cash? Here's all you have to do. You can join the Edisto Outdoors Street Team today. All you have to do is contact me, Clemson81@gmail.com, and I'll put you through to get all the details. That's all you got to do. You can be a part of the street team for Edisto Outdoors. Contact me, Clemson81@gmail.com. We've already got some people on board. I'm looking forward to adding more into the equation as the summer season rolls along. And if you haven't checked out their materials and their products, go by there, EdistoOutdoors.com. Fantastic shirts. For the outdoorsman in you, I'll tell you that. If you like to hunt, you like to fish, and everybody tells me turkeys are smart. Everybody tells me, yeah. Do we have some hunters in the chat room? If you hunt, let me know. How intelligent is a turkey? I understand they have the brain the size of a walnut, but they have the intelligence higher than most Gamecock fans. Sing! Yes! Killing it here on the next to last episode of Clemson Hotline before we take off for the summer break. Yes, that's right. There will only be TigerNet Talks throughout the summer, and we're even going to take, I think, 2 weeks off in the summer for TigerNet Talk. That's just the way it goes. We have to get our break. Josh on Twitter says, getting caught up on TN Talk today. We'll be tuning in from South Dakota all summer break. Need to remember the time change was the hashtag. Thank you, Josh. You can follow him on Twitter, everybody. That's at Josh Tetzlaff, Tetzlaff. And Josh is with us an awful lot in the chat room for the live program. Bent Zero tweets to us as well. I know he's in the chat room with us. Says, with the grant of rights locking us into the Atlantic Coast Conference, we need to focus on making the conference better. If you were John Swofford, what would you do? Ben, I think it's a great question. I think it's a fantastic question. I can tell you there's a couple of things that I think that John Swofford needs to do. One is find a way, and I don't care what way it is, to secure Notre Dame. In no way, shape, or form can you allow them to continue on not being a full member of the Atlantic Coast Conference. And I know what they're doing, playing 5 games against these Atlantic Coast Conference teams will be good. But as we've mentioned on the show here before previously, losing Maryland and gaining Louisville was a win-win for the Atlantic Coast Conference. And that has nothing to do with the fact that Louisville just won the national championship in basketball, or that they had a very good football season this past year. It has to do with the fact that Maryland wasn't bringing a whole lot to the table. You got to go back to Ralph Friedgen, early 2000s, to find the time that Maryland was really making any noise at all in football, and back to 2005, 2006 for their basketball team really being a legitimate threat. All of a sudden now, this league is looking really good. And if you could pull in and really get Notre Dame solid, full Atlantic Coast Conference, and it'll take a lot. I've said in the past, I think the biggest deal and the biggest hurdle that you'll have to overcome in college football in securing Notre Dame into a conference is where expansion goes and this playoff. We're probably done expanding, so now it becomes, what's the situation on getting into the playoff? And does it become a situation where, as we mentioned when we went through our scenario of the playoff, that a team has to win their conference, or that you have to be in a conference to get one of those automatic bids? Because if you're Notre Dame, being in a conference and locking up an automatic bid might be easier than being out of a conference and trying to play your way in. Because if you start with the conference champion mentality, that it could become that a team from the weaker division, much like what happened this season, where you had a couple of teams that couldn't play in the Atlantic Coast Conference Championship game, in a Miami and a North Carolina, so you had to have a Georgia Tech filling it in, instead of Clemson, who had the exact same 7-1 record in conference as Florida State. If you don't make some change in that system that says, hey, if there's a team in another division that's 2 games behind the 2 teams in one side, those 2 are going to play and have an interdivisional championship game, which is something people have discussed. If you don't go with that theory, you could have potentially a team like Notre Dame who could have, if they were in a conference, 2 losses, still play in the conference championship, still get into the playoff, whereas as an outsider who maybe doesn't have that opportunity, they couldn't get in. So it's going to be intriguing to see. I think, Ben, as we look forward, Mike, that's the one thing, if I'm John Swofford, is secure Notre Dame, because I don't think there's anything else that you can really do at this point, and that's bring them in as a full-time member. And some will say, look at some of the bowl scenarios, but I think that's going to come down to more performance on the field for the future. Stay with us.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-645-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-645-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-645-MY-TV. 1-855-645-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-645-MY-TV. 1-855-645-MY-TV.
There's something about looking and feeling classy that everyone enjoys. Check out Edisto Outdoors, an apparel brand inspired by our southern animals and environment. These shirts feature soft touch prints that will keep you looking your best in all types of weather. Look for Edisto Outdoors, coming soon to many fine retailers across the state, or visit www.edistooutdoors.com. Technical, comfortable, livable.
Don't you just hate paying for things you don't need? Man, I do. And that's why I'm here to tell you about PennyBackup.com. We all know about those big companies that allow us to back up computer files and data to a safe place on the web, and that's great. But what makes me crazy is that they make me pay for gigabytes of storage that I don't need. PennyBackup.com is here to the rescue with the same features, the same data protection, the same services, but you pay only 8.9 cents for every gigabyte used. Heck, that's less than a dime per gigabyte. PennyBackup.com continually backs up your data and files, and if your computer gets stepped on by an elephant or your hard drive crashes, you'll be able to download all of your important data to a new computer immediately. And PennyBackup.com is as safe as the other guys. It just costs a lot less at 8.9 cents per gigabyte. Want more proof? Go to PennyBackup.com for a free 30-day trial and see for yourself. See how much money you'll save for no loss of service or security. It's PennyBackup.com.
Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
Remember all the stories growing up as a kid about Refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best.
Welcome back into the program. Clemson Hotline rolling along. The next to last episode of the program before we take our summer hiatus. So we'll have one more show next Sunday night. And then it'll just be on Wednesdays for a while as we do TigerNet Talk throughout the summer. And we'll guarantee you some great guests then. So I hope that you will join us for that all the time. And we mentioned Mother's Day earlier. Mark in the chat room asked what I got my wife for Mother's Day, or what my son got my wife for Mother's Day. And we talked about the hummingbird feeders and the wind chimes. And I was reminded of Old School, the movie. If you haven't seen it, Will Ferrell there at Old School when he's explaining about his weekend.
Besides, I got a big day tomorrow. But you guys have a great time. A big day? Doing what? Well, actually, pretty nice little Saturday. We're gonna go to Home Depot. Yeah, buy some wallpaper, maybe get some flooring.
That was the day. That was the day right there. Got to go to Home Depot. Oh, goodness gracious. Thank you so much for being here with us. We do what we can to make the show entertaining. I had to dig for that one. Then I had to cross my fingers because I couldn't remember if that clip had any off-color words, if you get what I'm saying. And we spoke of graduation earlier. How about this statistic since Dabo Swinney has been head coach for 4 full years? 65 of 72 senior lettermen have graduated. That's 90.3%. And the only 7 who haven't graduated are playing in the NFL. So, you can't discount that effort. And then it doesn't change for the basketball team. I saw that Milton Jennings and Devin Booker both graduated as well. 9 of the 10 seniors Brad Brownell has coached have now graduated. That's, 90% graduation clip for the football team and the basketball team. And I know they're not, probably most of them, I should say, aren't taking the most difficult courses, but for those numbers to continue to stay at that rate and the performance you saw or have seen out of the football team be as good as it has been, I know a lot of people hoping that this Clemson Tiger basketball team will see some improvement. And you knew that this team was going to be struggle, I think, in the low post, and they still may. But Ibrahim Jambo, we didn't mention him just a couple of weeks ago, signing his national letter of intent to play at Clemson. He's a JUCO that'll come in as a junior to Clemson, a power forward, 6'10", 205 pounds, out of Three Rivers Community College. He's a kid who I think is a little bit more polished than the guy who is next on the list to come in, and that's City Jitty. And City, the best on Twitter, SIDY, the best on Twitter. You can follow him if you want to. Says, I'll be a Tiger. I'm going to Clemson. He's 6'10", 230 pounds. I haven't seen a whole lot on him, to be honest with you. He's obviously a big kid. I tried to find some film on him to watch him. He didn't look very polished in what I was able to pick up on. And it's very hard to determine. There was one little scene where I think he was playing by himself, and it just didn't do enough for me to know about him. But I know this. Give Brad Brownell some credit because he needed some big men. He went out and got some big men. And I think when you look at the development of players from overseas, and these two guys obviously are foreigners who have come to America for high school and for junior college and are going to play their basketball in America, I think you can look and find those prospects out there that have been impactful from perhaps another country. So hopefully this will go well for both of these young men as they transition. There's plenty of playing time available for them. And if you add in the other freshman that's coming in to the mix, Austin Ojukwa out of Columbia, South Carolina, I think you probably have the only team in America who has 3 guys on the squad where there is a J as the second consonant or the second letter in their last names. I don't think you're going to find that anywhere. You might not find that anywhere else on the planet, to be honest with you. So you've got Jambo, DJAMBO. You've got Jitty, DJITTE, and you've got Ojukwa, AJUKWA. So give Clemson credit when it comes to having a spelling bee because they'll probably win most of those against other teams if you're required to spell the opponent's names. We've got an opportunity to win that. That's not a bad thing. And one other thing I do want to mention to you, some sad news to report for some friends of mine from Barnwell, South Carolina. Their daughter, Zeta, this is the daughter of Steve and Angel Brabham, passed away. She was just over 2 years old. She's been hospitalized much of her life. I just want to let you know that there's an opportunity for you to sponsor a team or a hole during a golf tournament they're going to be holding for the Team Zeta golf tournament. If you need more information on that, again, I mentioned about the Edisto Outdoor Street Team. I think that's great. But if you want to donate and help this family out, I mean, just a tough time. I don't even have the words to put together to explain what they've been through and how much they've grown and how many people this young little girl, the lives that she touched in her short days here on earth. She had a undiagnosed charge-like syndrome that affect most of her major organs in her body. And fortunately, her parents were as strong as nails and just fought through it, and the family stayed together. And you see things like that tear people up so frequently. But, if you want to just donate, if you want to give or sponsor a hole, to sponsor a hole is $50. We're going to definitely, Clemson Sports Talk, we're sponsoring one. I can send you the information if you want to sign up for that. You can sponsor the event for $250, and then you can make any donations that you want to do. But I know you don't have any connection to them other than through me, but if you ever consider it, if there's a reason to give and help, this family offsets some of the money that they have to pay for the monthly expenses still, some of the costs from the funeral, everything that's gone into that. I know they would certainly appreciate it. And so just email me, clemson81@gmail.com. I'll send you that stuff. The fourth annual golf tournament is May 18th at Sweetwater Country Club in Barnwell, South Carolina, and that's the Team Zeta golf tournament, the fourth annual one. So please do that. Clemson Tom, I will. I'll send you everything, man. But again, anybody else listening to us, Clemson81@gmail.com. We'd love to have you help out in any way and let them know that we sent you there. I'm just trying to do what's right. We can sit here and talk about football and how important this Clemson-Georgia game is on August 31st, and then we can reflect on just what's really important. Where do we really need to be concentrating our efforts and what we're doing, and I just knew that was the right thing to do, and that you guys were the right people to let know about it. So I do appreciate that. We're going to have to head out to a short break, and when we come back, we got a couple of articles that we want to talk about. One is an article written by Ron Morris. I know that Gamecock fans remember Ron from his many articles giving them a lot of grief. In fact, I believe his email address at the state newspaper is ronmo@thestate.com. The Gamecock fans like to say that it's moron at thestate.com. But Ron Morris wrote an article about your Clemson Tigers. I think you'll like it. And finally, we'll also take a look at an article from Bart Wright. Bart Wright is probably the Ron Morris of the upstate. I mean, Bart Wright gets a lot of criticism from Clemson Tiger fans. And I think it's funny, the state newspaper takes a lot of heat right now from Clemson Tiger fans, and they don't even have anybody covering Clemson, or they'll take the heat, from Gamecock fans saying they give too much coverage to Clemson, yet there's nobody even covering the Tigers for the state newspaper. It's ironic, isn't it? Stay with us. We'll be back.
First up, offense is too fast, defense ain't scared, boy. Line up against me, we drop you on your head, boy. Death Valley be jumping, whole stadium pumping. Best fans in the whole nation, and damn right we love them. CLEMSON, we Clemson, we ballin', we all in. These boys can't hold us back.
Yeah, I agree, RC. I think it's a great point. I didn't even think of it like that, but we'll definitely mention that. That's a good point. I think it's an impressive stat. Very impressive, especially Dabo's numbers. I mean, Brownell's numbers are good, but and it's the same percentage, but when you're talking about the numbers of football players, that's where that number just jumps off the page.
Come on, man. Baby. Come on. Guess who's back, dirty. STL dirty. I'm like Magic to Kareem, man. You tell me I ain't worthy. I ain't speaking about a jersey, I'm speaking about income. Did you hear that, Elizabeth? Here come
Welcome back into the Clemson Hotline. Lawton Swan here. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports. Email us. Clemson81@gmail.com. Ron Morris. I got his email address wrong. It's rmorris@thestate.com. So it's R Morris, not Ron Mo. So it's R Morris. And it's definitely not Mo Ron, as the Gamecock fans like to call him. But Ron Morris, who is most notably known probably for riling up Steve Spurrier and having Spurrier say, "What do you want me to do about it, Ron?" back in 2008, I believe it was. That very famous now line of Steve Spurrier getting a little bit rattled, and then I think it was a week later during a press conference where he refused to do his press conference with Ron Morris in the room, and there may have been a stare down or two. I don't know the whole scenario that went on in Columbia. I'm not sure exactly what went down, but I know that there was some disagreements. But anyway, Ron Morris wrote an article about this Clemson Tiger team and the opportunity to actually achieve the 5 goals that they set at the beginning of the season. 1, win the opener. 2, win the Atlantic Division. 3, win the state championship. 4, win the Atlantic Coast Conference championship. And 5, win a bowl game. And what Ron gets into is that as this season, if those 5 things happen, your Clemson Tigers will win the national championship. If they win their opener, they'll defeat Georgia, which is as big a game as Clemson's really had in a long time opening the season. And we can flash back to the opening season game against Auburn last year and maybe how important it felt, but there's no way, shape, or form that game was as big as this one that's coming up. 2, if you win the Atlantic Division, look, Florida State right now, they've obviously got some question marks, especially at the quarterback position. They're coming off a season where they were 7-1, beating Clemson at Florida State, a team that many people thought Clemson couldn't score on, and these two teams went back and forth for a long, long time. Clemson up 28-14 at one point in that game and let the Florida State Seminoles off the hook. But now Clemson gets Florida State in the friendly confines of Death Valley. They haven't lost to Florida State in Clemson since 2001. So a chance there to pass step number 2. Win the state championship. Look, what South Carolina's done over the past 4 seasons has been remarkable given the series between these two teams. And we can be reminded from them over and over and over that we're living in some fantasy land that's talking about the past when the only thing they ever had a chance to talk about was the future before. What they were going to do next year. What's next year? See, because they didn't have anything to talk about in the past because the past had been dominated from the time of their birth. I mean, it's been a Clemson domination. So to win the state championship this season, South Carolina, you know what I think about Jadeveon Clowney. The 2-quarterback system, will it continue to work? Will there be any animosity in the locker room? Who knows? The running back situation there. Mike Davis, how does he play as a sophomore? So there's question marks in Columbia. The defensive side of the ball lost a lot of players. So Clemson has a chance to win the state championship game. They'll have to do it on the road, though. Win the Atlantic Coast Conference championship game. Look, if you've gotten through all the other games, the Florida States, the Georgias, the South Carolinas up until that point, and you've got a great season that sets up for healing, there's no reason to believe you can't win that Atlantic Coast Conference championship game and finally win the bowl game. That's for all the marbles at that point. I don't know what kind of heat Ron Morris took for writing this article because I don't think he's written a whole lot in his career that have set up for the South Carolina Gamecocks to win the national championship. But this season, Clemson's schedule, depending on what perhaps a Georgia and what South Carolina do outside of the games against us, they can't fall in their face much like Auburn did this past year and have people go, oh, yeah, that was a great win, because if you open up and you defeat Aaron Murray in Georgia and game number 1 and it's the national talk of the season and then they finish with 3 wins, people will say, well, that game wasn't all that big for Clemson. If you go into that South Carolina game and they only have 2 or 3 wins because they've had a bad year, some surprisingly bad year, that doesn't do anything for you. But if the belief is that those 2 teams are going to compete for the SEC East, if those 2 teams are going to be the teams that may play in the SEC championship game, there's still some question marks with Muschamp at Florida. Georgia, South Carolina, I think a lot of people feel like are still playing right there neck and neck to go to the SEC championship game. The winner of that game in game 2, which is another whole thing you're dealing with if you're a Georgia fan. I talked about my nephew being at Georgia for law school. How about the Georgia Bulldogs? I mean, they're focused on Clemson, but they've got kind of to keep an eye on Carolina because even though you know how big that first game is, the second one could determine whether you play for the SEC championship or not. And the winner of the SEC championship game, as you all know, all but one season has played for the national championship, or I should say has won the national championship. And 1 year The team that won the SEC, LSU, got beat by a team who didn't win their division in Alabama, and that's kind of how that scenario works out, that the SEC is actually – the SEC champion has not won all of the recent national championships for that conference. The other article, though, by Bart Wright is an interesting one because I think it discusses a topic that you and I all worry about a little bit, and that is not Ron Morris, but Chad Morris, and how long he'll be at Clemson. We'll talk about that one when we get back. Stay with us.
I want to tell everybody I'm from Clemson, and I'm proud. There's no mistake, no doubt about it. Excuse me if I sing a little loud.
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Here's a surprising summertime fact from new Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. We all know that irritants like bug bites and poison ivy can make you itch. But what you might not know is how. Actually, it's the histamines your body creates in reaction to these irritants that make you miserable. But now that scratch has met its match. New Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. Its maximum strength itch medicine blocks your itch-causing histamines fast for long-lasting relief. New Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. The relief you've been itching for. Use as directed.
A winning team requires having great team members. If you're a landowner interested in selling timber or are considering buying or selling land, call the winning team of Cross Creek Timber and Cross Creek Realty, LLC today. Put the knowledge and skills of professional, licensed foresters and realtors to work for your team. To learn more about the forestry and real estate services offered by Cross Creek Timber, call 864-517-3620 and Cross Creek Realty, LLC at 864-517-3621. Or visit www.crosscreektimber.com and easily follow the link to real estate.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
Hey there, Tiger fans. When you take yourself out to the ball game, make sure that you're staying at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn. That's right, it's the closest hotel to Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Lakeside accommodations, complimentary continental breakfast bar with waffles, the Seasons by the Lake restaurant, Joe's Place Bar, and the Walker Golf Course are all waiting for you right around the corner from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. For reservations, contact General Manager Sharon Franks at sharonf@clemson.edu or call 1-888-654-9020 and ask to speak to Sharon. Buy yourself some peanuts and Cracker Jacks, but make sure that you stay at the Clemson University Conference Center and Inn.
Have a good day. Next!
Hi there. 2 hot dogs, please.
Oh, honey, this has been the perfect getaway, and I can't believe how much money we saved with Hotels.com.
Oh, shh. If people find out we've got extra money...
Oh, sweetie, relax.
Here you go.
How much?
For you, $37.
Whoa!
Plus extra.
What is it, wrapped in gold?
The Hotels.com Memorial Day sale, now through May 27th. With savings so great, you won't be able to keep it a secret. Book now and save up to 30%. Hotels.com, finding you the perfect place at the perfect price.
Final segment of the show. The hour flies by. No, I don't know. I've tried. Give me another hour. You know, I've begged and begged and begged for another hour. I need 2 hours of Tiger Sports Talk. That's what we need. Perhaps we'll have it one day down the road. Thank you so much for being here with us. I certainly do appreciate it, as always. Throughout the week, tweet to us, hashtag TNTalk. We can talk about your questions just like Bent Zero and Josh did. Thank you so much to them. And Chris, see you tailgater. You can follow him on Twitter. He tweeted out a picture. I didn't even think about the ramifications of perhaps putting on those different visuals last weekend during the show, during the after party. And I put on an afro, just a huge 1970s afro. It magically puts it on there, and he sure did save a picture of it or a screen capture and pop that out to Twitter. So thank you to him for giving us all a thought of what I might look like with hair. Bart Wright's column called Tigers Will Get All They Can Out of Morris is a pretty neat reflection on something that I think we all saw initially when Chad Morris came in, and that was just how this offense really changed things for the Clemson Tigers. The pace of the game, the way Clemson did things. Many people at the time, they were reminded of when Rich Rodriguez came in with Tommy Bowden in year number 1 and how that offense really electrified America. That, you know, those two went 12-0 at Tulane, and it's intriguing because I think when you look at we talk about depreciation. Look, I was terrible. I was absolutely horrible in accounting. But I think there is a limited, lifetime that you're going to, or life on how long you're going to have Chad Morris as your offensive coordinator at Clemson. If you're lucky, he sticks around for 10 or more years. If you're realistic, it's probably 1 year, or maybe if he's being truthful with Deshaun Watson, maybe you get 4 or 5 more years out of him. But, realistically speaking, I think most people realize that him staying is not something that you can just bank on anymore. Because with another great season, eventually the money, what he would be offered, would become so much that it's impossible almost to sit idly by and be paid less than what you think your market value is worth at that point. But it's a great, it's a noticeable comparison, I think, between these two, because when Rodriguez left to go to West Virginia, clearly Clemson's offense never got back to the level that it once was at. There were some changes in the game. If you remember, Clemson would sometimes substitute in a multitude of players at one time, and that got changed. The rules happened. They made the rule where you couldn't have, more than 11 men in the huddle, and you couldn't have multiple guys running on late and this, that, and the other. That was almost considered the Tommy Bowden or the Rich Rodriguez rule. But this is a fast-paced offense. This is one where Clemson and Dabo Swinney need to get every single thing they can out of Chad Morris while he's there. And the one thing that I'm hoping, and the one thing that I will continue to hope for, because I don't think you can go out and find somebody just like Chad Morris down the road to come right in. I think you have to look internally and hope, and I think this is what most people are really hoping, is that Jeff Scott is evaluating every single thing, the ins and the outs, and hopefully his dad, too, is really helping him out. I think Brad Scott could help him out a lot with that as well, so that perhaps Jeff Scott could step into that role. Then Jeff Scott being a Clemson graduate, we all know what it means to be a part of this Clemson family, and then perhaps Jeff Scott could go on to one day maybe be the head coach at Clemson way down the line. I don't know if that's a realistic thing, but I think it's definitely a possibility that most people are willing to at least look at right now. And all this coming from a guy who, in Dabo Swinney, never was an offensive coordinator, but he's put together, or a defensive coordinator for that matter, but he's put together a great staff around him. And Tommy will put the icing on the show here with this one. Think about this, Tiger fans. Do y'all remember when just making a crappy bowl bid was considered a great season? Funny how a guy named Dabo changes everything. And there was a great article, too, written about Dabo Swinney the other day, and his name changed, basically going from Dabo to now people recognizing him as Coach Swinney. And that was in Mickey Plyler's blog on TigerNet as well. Thank you so much for being here, Tiger fans. An hour in the books. We'll be back Wednesday night at 9 o'clock with TigerNet Talk. Until then, I'm your host, Lawton Swan, signing off. Y'all take care now, and go Tigers!